Are you a thoughtful leader? Maybe you are. Maybe you think you are. Let's find out. I'm Mindy Gibbins-Klein. I'm author of The Thoughtful Leader and host of the Thoughtful Leader podcast. Thoughtful leadership is all about thought leadership that goes above and beyond. Thought leadership that is truly new and original, exciting, disruptive, maybe even groundbreaking. Because let's face it, we need to raise the bar. My guests and I are absolutely obsessed with finding truly original thought leadership, and I'm going to bring you so many exciting ideas and opportunities, things for you to think about, and chances for you to push your thinking that you'll be very glad you tuned in. So thanks so much for checking out Thoughtful Leadership and the Thoughtful Leader podcast. I look forward to connecting with you very, very soon. Welcome to the show. My guest today is the amazing thoughtful leader, Paul Mercer. You are going to love hearing about what he's up to in the world and his perspective on life and society and some really cool stuff. So buckle up and let's welcome Paul. Hi, Paul.
Hi. Nice to see you, Mindy. And thank you for inviting me.
You see me, and most people are just hearing us, but that's fine. By the way, listeners, if you would like to watch the videos, they are available on the Thoughtful Leader podcast YouTube channel, just saying. So back to you, Paul. We had a really interesting discussion, which I think was kind of meant to be about business, and then it evolved into lots of other really interesting areas. And that's what thoughtful leadership is about. It's about paying attention to things like that and going with it, not being rigid. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah. One thing's for sure. We certainly, for me, over the last few years, really found the need to change, adapt. I guess like so many people, especially, the pandemic, I think taught so much of that to so many of us and gave us time to pause and reflect. And absolutely, for me anyway today, being not just a leader, but someone that hopefully goes the extra mile, both for myself and for those that surround me, is hugely important to me.
Yeah, well, that's why you're on the show. We've not even done 100 episodes so far, and I think only 75 of them have been with guests. So, you're in good company and kind of elite company. But I know that's not how you view the world. In fact, no. It's kind of just the opposite. Why don't you tell everybody what you are up to in the world?
Yeah, sure. Well, I guess, from a business point of view, I'm a entrepreneur, founder, engineer, salesperson. I think probably wear lots of different hats, but they tend to blur into different things, especially in the environment that we work in. And my business, Portable Power Technology, develops and supplies power solutions in off-grid, remote location, in vehicle for like ambulances and fire engines, those kinds of applications. And really anywhere where somebody needs power and energy, but without the use of a generator. And generally what we do, most of our solutions are portable, so they can be moved around easily. So we do a lot with news gathering services and film studios and that kind of stuff too. So that's kind of the business. And we've been doing portable power technology for 7 and a bit years now. We've enjoyed a huge amount of growth and in that time, and success as well. Clearly, that doesn't just magically fall into our laps. We have to work very hard, like everybody does. And but my passion has always been in power, and as an engineer originally, that was always my background. So this, I've been involved in other businesses before at different levels, working in different roles, even running some other smaller businesses. And, I think, what's going on with me, I think these days, actually not just chasing the business and measuring my success around the numbers and kind of living in a life of fear of failure, but one more of looking at what success means in different ways in my life. And for me, now that just comes in many different facets and, hugely important to my well-being, the well-being of the business, I guess, and just as importantly, the well-being of the team of people that work in here. So, where am I at the moment? I suppose, where, like so many people, we're kind of working our way through some of these turbulent waters that are surrounding us still, business-wise and in the economy, and doing that whilst being a thoughtful leader and navigating some of that other stuff, the personal stuff as well, it can be very challenging, can be very hard, but maintaining the focus on the right things now is hugely important for me.
Thank you very much for sharing that. Before we leave the discussion of the business, I'm really curious about how you got involved in this particular business, because, it is doing important work. And I'm sure there was quite a few thoughtful moments and over the years. But, how did it start?
Oh, it's... As someone that was originally an electronics engineer, did a 5-year apprenticeship with British Aerospace, then worked in various sales and marketing roles for various companies, leading me on to sort of becoming like a sales agent for semiconductor companies in the US, in Silicon Valley. And that created a small company and ended up being like a sales agent for a number of large manufacturers, bringing their products and setting up sales networks across Europe and the UK. And then just as part of that, one day decided that wouldn't it be great to have this kind of small business doing power products for sort of the caravan, RV, boating market. And so created a small business doing that. And then started a small business called Power for Africa, which was developing power systems for off-grid communities in West Africa, and did various projects, World Bank projects, and project with the Sherry Blair Foundation through another company as well. Also did projects in Ghana and Sierra Leone, Guinea, and then one in the South Pacific in the Solomon Islands, which was quite interesting. And so, and then sadly, I split with my business partner and took those two small elements. I had this idea that I really wanted to take the whole power thing and create, novate them into like a single business that was really going to just create power solutions and stride all different markets, whether that was providing power inside vehicles or whether that was for glamping sites or for off-grid communities or film studios, whatever it may be. And so, that was where the idea came from. And with that as well, raised angel investment in order to do that. And literally just, took the business, those two small businesses, met some lawyers, took one or two people, some stock, and really started from nothing again, to be honest, but was 100%. I wasn't 100% sure, but I was confident enough that we were going to make this fly with the right funding and the right planning and the right strategy. And they're the things I'm good at. And so, the passion and the dream and the all came alive. And today, we get involved in so many fun and amazing things. If you look at our website, you'll kind of see the tone and the ethos of the values of the business. We're very informal. We don't take ourselves too seriously, even though we do work in some very professional and serious areas. But for us, power is a passion, but also it's an education. And no matter what we do with our customers, whether it's a single B2C customer or a large company, and whether they buy from us or not, our job is to help people better understand power and energy and why it's so challenging to generate and why 1 billion people in the world still don't have it and why we might have power cuts in the winter. And so, that's always nice for us to do that as well and help our customers and clients see and understand that better.
Yeah, well, you are absolutely right. Everything relies on power and energy. And, it's a current topic and people are probably thinking about their own situation. But the billion people without power, that's a personal thing. So I'm going to ask if you're willing to move into the personal discussion, because, the thoughtful leader, Paul, you know this because we've discussed the podcast and my philosophy. The thoughtful leader never stops pushing the pushing the envelope, pushing the question, pushing themselves and pushing their thinking. And I know you've had to do this over the past few years, running the business, but also, personal challenges. And I know you care about the team. So there's a lot of things going on at the same time. How have you had to be thoughtful and be as specific as you want? Because the listeners are really keen to hear your story.
Sure. Yeah, I'll try and convey that in the best way that I can. I think that, I think that I've always been thoughtful, but I haven't always been the right thoughtful, and probably spent most of my life thinking too much and thinking too much in the wrong way, and certainly was never compassionate to myself and treated myself, I think, pretty badly for a long time. A lot of that came from past experiences as when I was young and leaving home very young and really being fiercely independent of everything and everybody for most of my life. And so everything that I kind of created was centered around me. And I think that there were various stages, I guess, in all of our lives where things change or things spark in us. And I think one of the changes for me was back in 2018, I was diagnosed with RA, rheumatoid arthritis, which is an autoimmune disease, degenerative, and can create a huge amount of problems. And, being diagnosed with that at, 49 was like, wasn't happy, clearly. And your immediate reaction is, what am I going to do? And how am I going to spend the rest of my life? And will I be able to run and walk and swim and do all of this fun stuff as well? And that initially made me quite low. And I found myself kind of, as well as working really hard and getting portable power technology off the ground and really pushing the boundaries of that, was just driving myself further and further into the ground and was just feeling worse and worse. And for me, that kind of culminated in probably late 2019, early 2020. And clearly at the same time as we were heading into the pandemic, which, for so many people was a challenge. And I remember closing the doors on the business here on March the 19th, 2020, sending my team home, preparing for what I had no idea, like so many, what the future was going to hold for us as individuals and for the business. I found that, genuinely very upsetting. And I think it's fair to say that during all of this time, I've always held strong values around my team and my business and how I treat other people anyway. But the bit that was probably missing for me was some of how I was treating myself as well. And I was fortunate enough to join a mastermind group run by Penny Power and 10 incredible people who have become subsequently amazing friends in my life. We passed through the pandemic together, and we really looked after and supported each other. And there was one in particular, no names, who saw that I just was struggling. And I went into mastermind very vulnerable in like, I'm not happy in my life. I'm not happy in my business. I have a great business, but it's not giving me what I need. I feel lonely, unhappy and everything else. And I was fortunate enough that she really kind of picked up on that and engaged with me, supported me, spent some time talking to me. And subsequently, that really changed a whole lot in what was going on and led me into beginning work with a life coach who she introduced me to. And that's really led me on this kind of road of change and really kind of taking that thoughtfulness into so many more areas of my life now. And the world is a crazy place still, and business is crazy in the environment that we're all in. And day to day, some days are really hard for me with my RA. I know I spend a lot of time going in and out of hospitals, and I have to inject myself every week with certain drugs. And doing that as part of everything else, of course, can be difficult. But I've learned, so much more about what I want and what I need, and more about who I want to be and how to deal with some of this stuff. But whilst I think genuinely thinking more about, now I'm feeling more happy and more comfortable and excited about everything in my life. I can now apply so much more of that energy and that happiness and that positivity to everyone around me. And whether that's people in my team or, strangers I bump into who probably go, who's this weird man smiling at me, to just the people who are in my life. And I'm very fortunate that I get to do all of those great things now. And when I reflect back, I certainly hold some of the challenges that we all have, and certainly that I've had. I look back at them now, not, in history as being things that were bad for me, but that were gifted to me to really elevate my life and turn it into something better for me and for the people that are around me. So I now try and see, all of this stuff that way. Not always possible, of course, but I do read and learn, open my eyes and my mind to understanding more about how to feel about things that go on and how to deal with them.
Well, thank you for sharing the context. And I knew a little bit about what you've been through, but of course I can never know exactly how it made you feel. And we can never really know how someone else is feeling. They show up how they show up. And in business, especially if you run a significant business and you're the face of the business like you are, Paul, there's a certain expectation that you're going to be strong. And people talk about vulnerability, but I'm not sure that people are that comfortable with a leader who, opens the kimono and is totally vulnerable and bursts into tears. And, how did your team react? Because they were all going through their own things, especially at the beginning of the pandemic. What was the thoughtful behavior on your part and theirs?
I think certainly even with what I was feeling at the time, as I say, I think I've always been someone that's sensitive to the thoughts and to the values of those around me. And when we headed into the pandemic, my first thought was my team, looking after them, making sure that they were okay. We'd have a Teams chat at the end of every day. I would arrange, for us we were always open with each other. We'd have these times where we'd just, send silly stuff like gifts and joke and just bounce stuff around with each other. I always needed at least one person still coming in and out of the office and warehouse here to effectively pack goods up and ship them out of the door. So we were processing orders, taking calls, doing all of that at home, and then pushing the paperwork into the offices here. And then somebody would come in here and pack the goods and send them out the door. And for that person, that was quite isolating because they were having to do that job on their own. It was isolating for all of us, but I was very, very aware of their welfare, their state of mind, because I knew how I felt as well going through this, or how I was already feeling before it even started, and to really ensure that, to motivate them and to be at all times be transparent with regards to what we were doing, what was going on, to focus on the things that were important, and also to give everybody the confidence and the knowledge that I had control, that everything was going to be great, amazing. This was just a moment in time that we had to pass through together. And, I don't have a huge team of people, but they're incredibly dedicated and as passionate and motivated as I am. And not one person in my team took a day off in the whole time that we were in lockdown. Twice. They all worked flat out. Okay, second lockdown, we started arranging to rotate people in and out so that people just weren't alone and actually could start to see each other more and things like that. But yeah, it was incredibly difficult. And I think that for me, I've always been relatively transparent anyway. I tend to be someone that wears my heart on my sleeves. Sometimes clearly that's good. Sometimes that's, not so good. But I've always I've never hidden particularly my journey with regards to some of the stuff that I've passed through, and certainly with regards to my RA and then subsequently the diagnosis of Crohn's disease as well this year. I'm very open with everybody in here. They know my journey. They know that some days I don't feel great, and I hope they forgive me for some of those days where, I'm not always at my best. But if I walk into this office, I walk in here in the knowledge that I'm here to do a job. I'm here to be the leader, to inspire and to motivate, to smile, to encourage, and to look after as well the people in here. And if on that day I wake up and I can't do that because I just don't feel up to it, then I don't come in and do that, because I'd rather just deal with that stuff and make sure that I'm not hiding from myself, really. And it's important when you smile that, there's real meaning behind it, as opposed to a grimace of having to. And so the people in here are very supportive, and, there'll be days, like there has been one day this week, where I'll just message them all and just say, look, I'm not feeling great. I'll be in a few hours or what have you. And everybody just, it's like we talk about it, but it's like everybody's very supportive, and everybody asks how I am, and everybody knows when I'm not feeling my best. And I genuinely like that, because I think that for me, that vulnerability is not a weakness. For me, it's a strength. I show them that I can do and be all of those things whilst still having to pass through these other things in my life, which aren't always as easy. And I hope that inspires them and gives them something to think about. And hope, it's probably a good word, trust and faith, and just know that, nothing's easy. And sometimes it can be it's easy just to be angry or do nothing or just walk away or just hide. And there are times where you can be all of the above. But principally, I try and maintain always a good, positive attitude and outlook. I'm one where genuinely I also am interested in the people in here, in my supply chain, in my clients, whomever.
Wow. So vulnerability is not a weakness, it's a strength. And you will hear people talking about things like that. But, you not only walked the talk during a time that was challenging for everyone, but on a daily basis, you and others with their challenges, you've created that climate, that culture. Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure learning from you. There's probably more listeners and viewers. Feel free to go to Paul's bio. The show notes have more information, and you can connect with him. I'm sure he'd love to hear from you. Thanks again, Paul Mercer, for sharing your wisdom with the Thoughtful Leader podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Thoughtful Leader, and I hope it's inspired you to be more thoughtful as a leader in your business. Please consider subscribing and leaving a review. An important question for you. Do you want to create a culture of thought leadership in your organization? My best-selling book, The Thoughtful Leader, is available now on Amazon and many other sites in paperback, ebook, and audiobook formats. Please visit www.mindygk.com for more great content. That's www.mindygk.com. Speak to you again soon.